Welcome to another edition of Behind the Blue. I'm Chad, and I'm here with my co-host, Bill. Bill, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm excited about today's guest.
I am too.
This is
I am
gonna
too.
be
I think this is going to be a great segment for the Erie community. And so, kind of without further ado, let's introduce our guest here. We have with us today Mr. Justin Brooks. Mr. Brooks is an Erie community member. Has lived here for about 13 years.
Yep.
He's also part of the Being Better Neighbors organization. Okay.
Yes.
And you're also a part of the 100 Black Men of Denver, which is a youth mentorship for Black youth, correct?
All youth.
All
yes,
youth.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you taking a little time to join us today.
You helped facilitate the task force, or actually, I think you were in charge of the task force, weren't you?
I was, the lead of the task force.
For inclusion for the town of Erie.
Right.
And could you tell us a little bit about that and what it was supposed to do and what your intentions of it were for?
Absolutely. So every police department has a list of directives that they kind of manage their department with. And so they're kind of like a rule book of, what do you do when you arrest someone? What do you do when you have to log evidence? All the regulations that you have. It's a Bible of regulations, 600 some odd pages, I believe it is. And so each of those directives get reviewed annually, typically. And so about a year ago, the town, at the request of the police department, wanted to include the public in that review, just as a checksum to make sure that there weren't any concerning gaps or any concerning language or behaviors that were being introduced by the directives. And so there was the town put out a call for citizens to apply for the task force, and they took nominations and then elected 9 people to take part in this task force. And so we assembled about 10 months ago or so. And we would meet every other week, and we'd spend 2-3 hours going through this Bible of documents and have discussion about, what was in the directives and whether we saw anything that might be concerning from the perspective of the town or the public, and gave that feedback to the command staff of the department.
Okay, so this was more proactive than it was reaction to an incident. Yeah.
Completely proactive, yes. It was. We don't have a lot of the issues that have been happening or that have been publicized over the last few years around the country. We've been fortunate to not have those incidents in Erie.
Yeah.
And the chief, the command staff, and the Board of Trustees and the mayor's office all wanted to keep it that way. And so this was just a way for us to, let's get public eyes on what we do as a department, and let's see if there's any cause for concern. And if there's cause for concern, let's address it and let's fix it.
So I guess the big question is, A, did you find anything that needed, maybe revamped?
Sure.
And B, maybe what did you find for the future kind of going forward that would help out with some of the things you guys found?
Sure. I would say that by and large, we didn't find anything that was like major glaring things policy-wise that would be an issue or that would be a cause for concern. There were a few relatively minor things, language updates, things that didn't seem clear to the officer who would have to apply the directive, we thought. So some things that would leave, we thought would leave things open to interpretation to those who have to follow it. So we gave some recommendations for updates, and those all got incorporated. So those were easy fixes. I think the largest thing we took away from the task force is as we would come to a directive, we would have lengthy discussions with the command staff about police procedure, why they do things the way they do, and we learned a bit more about police procedure and specifically around how do you handle public inquiries, how do you handle investigations when there's like an internal affairs type of situation. And I think that one thing that the department could benefit from is having a little bit more focus in terms of proactive public affairs and public information outreach. And so we really wanted to create a way for the public to get a window into, hey, when something happens, something that isn't planned, and when it happens, here's the chain of things that have to occur in order for the evidence to be protected, in order for the prosecution, to be proper, and to keep everyone above, not above board, but to keep everyone kind of on the same page as that process plays out. often the public, if they don't hear any information, they'll fill it in with whatever assumptions they want.
That's right.
And so that was eye-opening to us, we thought.
Did you recommend or will there be some training resources available for the officers, or how are you going to?
There was, during the course of our, I don't believe it was really because of the task force, but in the course of us doing our directives overview, there was some anti-bias training that was conducted at the department. We were able to take part in that. And that was also very insightful because, as you may know, there's been really high turnover with officers across the country,
Across the
not
country.
just in Erie.
Right.
And so some of the turnover that occurs, you know, there's a emotional tax that comes with that discipline.
Yeah.
That's hard for younger officers to overcome. And so we learned a little bit more about the coping mechanisms and kind of buddy systems that are in place that are being reinforced with the town. Not all of that was really new for Erie, but it really just highlighted the need for officers to really look out for one another and try to keep themselves, operationally ready.
And it's an ongoing thing.
It is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this task force going to be an ongoing thing?
The task force closed, so
Okay.
we completed our task, which was to review all
Okay.
of the highest priority directives. We went through about 66 of the directives, and so we don't have any ongoing tasks remaining.
So I guess maybe a follow-up question is it something, is there a committee that maybe the town should have that has, some members like yourself, other community members and business owners and stuff that could sit down annually or periodically and review some of this stuff or help make some of these recommendations then?
Yeah, that's been discussed. That was brought up at our last briefing to the Board of Trustees, and I think there is value in having kind of a consulting board that is able to be brought together, kind of on demand. I don't know if a full exhaustive review like we did is really necessary annually.
I agree.
Because
Yeah.
it takes a long time.
Yeah. Well, and if it's already been done, I don't know that it needs to be redone all the time.
Yeah.
But I think having that community input is incredibly important. And knowing that we have a voice like you, along with, some other members as well, is really beneficial to the community. It's somebody we can go to and you can then look at some of this stuff and help make some recommendations or bring some change if need be, so.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a key thing I learned both in the call box training that was conducted as well as in our discussions about the directives is, what you write on the paper is probably only 60%. You can write perfect directives, but if the culture doesn't really foster accountability, and if the officers are burned out or jaded when they're going to work every day, it won't matter. And we're really fortunate in Erie that we don't really have that issue. It's a different culture than what we've seen in some of the other departments around the country.
I would guess that you'd be available, or maybe you're talking about being available to advising the town and the officers on how to follow these
To
procedures.
the extent requested.
Yes.
I don't.
I'm
I am not an authority figure for the department or the town. I'll answer any questions and
Yeah.
come to any conversation that I'm invited to.
Okay. Now, the reason I asked that question was that, this is not something that you just talk about on Thursday and then forget about it until, Thursday 2 months from now.
Exactly.
It's every day.
Yes. So we touched on things that really were not directive related as we were going through the directives.
Yeah.
I mean, you would come across and it just so happened that in law enforcement, in the public eye at least, every time we met, there seemed to be something like we would, as we're about to open, the directive on, how to deal with a person in crisis, something would happen in the news where there was a person in crisis that, a situation got overly escalated. And so we'd have conversations about the co-responder program.
Yeah.
How do we improve our way to deal with mental health cases? Because, officers are not trained to be clinicians. They're not psychiatrists. They're
Right.
not therapists, but they often get sent into those situations.
Did you guys talk a lot about, or did you look into the CIT training program and stuff, and how Erie officers are trained to handle that.
We did, and we learned that as we went through the CIT directive that talks about what it means to be crisis intervention trained, all of the officers in Erie are through that training.
Yeah.
And then that begged the question of, okay, well, just because they can deal with it, doesn't mean they should be dealing with it every day.
Great point. I love that. I love that.
So we talked a bit about the Boulder County program with co-responders. We actually had those folks come in and they did an interview with us, and we got to learn about that program. And we were also able to request that a co-responder for mental health crisis be assigned or hired just for Erie, and we were able to get someone hired that actually does that now. So that hopefully will supplant that demand on the officers,
Yeah.
so they're not having to spend time that they could be enforcing like crime or policing our town and making us safer with things that are necessary but not really in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, I agree. Great point. Tell us a little bit more about Being a Better Neighbor program and the 100 Black Men of Denver, and how 100 Black Men of Denver, is it just in Denver, or is that something that comes up in, is that something here in Erie? And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I'll start with Being Better Neighbors. We just had a large concert downtown, Juneteenth festival, the same day as the concert in the park. And so Being Better Neighbors is an organization that was founded out of the principle that you really need to speak to one another, to learn about one another, to break down barriers of bias that you may have or assumptions you may have about people who are different. And so we want Erie to be a welcoming place for people who are largely underrepresented. As the years go by, I noticed that Erie is becoming a more and more diverse place. But the people who are moving here from other places, who might be from a different cultural background, they feel as if they have to go to Denver for their culture or to Aurora for their culture, and they don't necessarily need to do that. I think often, just inviting your neighbor over for a barbecue is an eye opener into a life experience that you may not be aware of. So Being Better Neighbors is really about that type of enlightenment and inclusion and increasing representation. And then the 100 Black Men is about pouring into the next generation examples of positive male role models and behavior. And so the 100 Black Men of America is an international organization that is founded on really deprogramming the stereotype that every time you see a black man, it's something negative in the news or some negative news story and stereotype. And so we wanted to show 100 positive examples of these are men who are fathers, these are professionals, these are educated people, these are people who are role models in their community. So that has spread over the last 40, 50 years or so, and we serve to find young men and sometimes young girls as well who really just need positive male influences in their life to help build them into better citizens.
I love it. And I hope to see you guys doing a lot of that stuff here in Erie. And certainly anything we can do on this podcast, as long as they'll let us continue to do this,
Sure.
we'll certainly do what we can
See
to
how you
promote
do.
it. But I love everything you've said. I think it's great that the town put this together to be proactive about this and make sure that everything is on par. And I appreciate your honesty, man.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate the time.
For people who are interested, how does someone get involved with the Better Neighbor program?
So beingbetterneighbors.com is our website.
Okay.
We have a Facebook group as well. So that's the best way to get connected to us. We have a series of what we call porch front talks that they rotate around Erie and various subdivisions, and you'll notice them in the pocket parks. People will just pop up with lawn chairs and have a conversation about topics that have to do with bullying, maybe racism, neighbor disputes, all types of things, and it's really just generating conversations to make the uncomfortable more comfortable is the point. So
And conversations are the key.
conversations are the key. When you stop talking, that's when tension rises.
Tension rises.
stop talking and stop listening.
And stop listening, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, Justin, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I look forward to having you continue to do more stuff with the town and with the police department as we go forward. So
Thank you. I
thanks.
appreciate it.
All right.
Justin, we really appreciate you being here today. I learned an awful lot about what's going on, and I hope it's an ongoing thing.
I do too. I thought that was a great interview. I thought, what Justin explained about task force and stuff was fantastic, and stuff I hadn't really even thought of, to be honest with you.
Well, you don't think about it until somebody raises a flag and you say, that's something we need to talk about.
Well, I'm glad though that Erie is thinking about it before it is a flag that needs to be
That's
raised.
exactly
So,
right. If you don't address these things up front and lay the groundwork, then they can develop into something that catches national news, and we don't want that.
We definitely don't want that. So we love our community. We love
Want-
the men and women in blue that protect us, and
Absolutely.
so having volunteers like Justin be a part of this is a fantastic thing.
It is.
So
It's a fantastic thing. Speaks well for the community and for the department.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, with that, we're now going to have our monthly crime prevention tip.
That's right. Bill and
And
Chad's crime prevention tip
Bill
of the
and
month.
Chad's crime tip of the month.
It's a tongue tire.
It is a tongue tire. I get so excited I can't even say it.
That's all right. That's all right.
But this month, what is our crime prevention tip?
The other night, my neighbor's truck alarm was going off. It went off about 5 times
Did it wake you up?
the other night. Didn't wake me up because, as you know, I'm usually not in bed very early. So, but it got me thinking about something.
What's that?
Vehicle thefts and vehicle trespasses are an ongoing problem, right? And certainly in our community, we've seen our share of some vehicle issues, and so I thought it'd be really informative to talk to people about just some of the common sense ways to prevent being the victim of a vehicle theft or a vehicle trespass.
There's a lot of those, and when I was doing all the data entry for, not all, but some of the data entry for crime statistics, that was one of the big things, was vehicle break-ins, vehicle thefts. So what can we do to make that diminish or hopefully go away?
Well, Bill, I'm so glad you asked. I actually put a little thought to this, and I came up with a couple of common sense ideas, right?
Well,
Lock
That's-
your car at night, right? If you're gonna leave it outside, if it's not in a garage. Don't leave your wallet, your purse, cell phone, whatever valuables you might
Valuables,
have
yeah.
laying out in plain sight, right? All common sense things. Program your car. Most cars have the little 3 buttons, right?
yeah,
You can program your garage door opener, right?
yep.
Program those so that you don't have to leave the portable garage door opener in your car. What do you know why that is?
So they can't push the button and open your garage and go in and steal something else, I guess,
Or take
Or-
it with them,
or take it with them, sure.
along with this little piece of paper
Yeah,
that a lot of people may not realize. The DMV actually, a couple of years ago, they changed registrations. So they give you 2 copies now, right?
Mm-hmm.
One with your name and your address, and one without.
without, yep.
And I don't know if people realize this or not, but the one without goes in your car.
Yeah. I
So
didn't know that until a couple of years ago when I happened to just notice it when it came. And I go, oh,
Because it always
That-
came with 2
that makes-
copies,
yeah,
right?
that makes
and
sense.
They were just identical copies.
yeah,
Well, if you have this one in your car, it does not have your address or anything, right? If you have to have a portable garage door opener in your car, and they take that, they now can't take your address, so then they have to rely on their memory, and we know criminals aren't always that smart, so at least you've made it a little bit tougher
made it
for
more
them
difficult.
coming back.
You made it
So,
more difficult.
But with those kind of simple things, you can easily prevent being the victim of a vehicle crime, whether it's theft or a vehicle break-in. We call it vehicle trespassing.
Trespassing.
But just some common sense things. And I don't know if people actually know this or not. And you can probably talk to this a little bit because you look at all these stats. Most of the vehicle trespasses or vehicle break-ins that occur are actually not people breaking into a car. The car is actually unlocked
Yeah, it's unlocked.
most of the time.
It's unlocked. I can't tell you the number of times that I've read where it's not only unlocked, but they have something valuable sitting right on the dash or right on the front seat, and that's that's just begging somebody
Yeah.
to come in there.
You literally might as well just put a sticker on your door that says,
There's-
my wallet's on the front seat, the door's unlocked, help yourself, right?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. you know?
And we don't mean to poke fun at anybody that's been the victim of
No.
vehicle trespass, because I was too, and I have to admit, it was my own stupidity. I had left my vehicle unlocked in my driveway,
Yeah.
came out one morning and noticed my dome light on, and went, well, that's kind of weird. And then as I opened up the door to my truck, the center console was open, my garage door opener was gone, as was my registration. Luckily enough, I had the one that didn't have the address in it, so they weren't able to come back. But, you know, so it can happen to anybody. The point is, I guarantee had my truck been locked, whoever broke into it would have probably just moved on to the next vehicle.
Yeah.
So
They're looking for a quick hit, they're not
these are crimes of opportunity.
opportunity,
So,
and chances are they don't even have the tools with them to break your window if they wanted to.
no, and they're not going to bring that attention to them. So you know, keep the cars locked, keep the valuables out of sight, and remember, registration, the one without the address, and if possible, program those 3 little buttons. It's kind of a pain in the you know what, but if you can program those, keep the portable ones out of the car, and you'll minimize any opportunity for somebody to break into your car or your house later. So, with that,
Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again next time.
that's right. Oh, and don't forget, tell us what you think. Right? Leave a little comment below. Tell us, do you like what you just heard? You know, this interview with Mr. Brooks about the task force, the inclusion task force. What do you not like? If you don't like us, tell us. If you love us, tell us that too. We want to hear all the stuff. But leave us a comment. We want to hear from you, and tell us if there's something you want to see on the show.
Absolutely. We're here just to try to communicate, and we want to communicate the things you want to hear.
That's right.
So if we're not hitting some of those things, let us know, and we'll make sure we include them in another episode.
So with that, thanks, folks. We'll see you on the flip side.